So how important do you see these multimedia skills in relation to like the basic fundamentals of journalism, like shorthand, research, ethics?
Actually, not that important, and I don't think editors do either. And it's interesting because I think that the average youngster in the street is going to be able to make a video that you can upload onto YouTube nowadays.
Yeah.
The average youngster in the street is going to be able to upload stuff onto a blogging site if they want to.
Yeah.
I think it's extremely important that we hone those skills for people so that they make an extremely good job of what they do.
Yeah.
But they are, if you like, societal skills among young people nowadays.
Yeah.
I think what we have to do is to make sure that those, our young people, have the skills on top of those that turn them into journalists rather than uploaders, rather than video makers. And that involves a lot of the basics, but it involves doing the basics in a setting that chimes with what they're interested in, that chimes with doing stuff online as well. But I always use as an example the BBC website.
Yeah.
And the BBC is the world's preeminent broadcaster, but you go onto the BBC's website and it is an essentially word-based website with pictures and with video that go beside the words. But even the world's biggest broadcaster, one of the biggest online presence as well, still finds that the easiest way for people to get into the online stuff is to read words first. It's a lot easier to read 1 or 2 paragraphs of a story than to decide whether you want to watch a video of it, than it is to start watching a video until you decide you don't want to watch it anymore. So I think those basics are extremely important.
So what percentage of our standard average journalism undergraduate degree is multimedia?
Do you know, I've never done a calculation, I don't know. I have to say I think it varies at the moment between different tutors as well. I think some of the tutors who have got more of a speciality with print will teach it more from a print point of view.
So is there flexibility between the tutors and what they actually teach, and they don't all stick to a rigid set curriculum?
Not a rigid one. They stick to a very firm one, but not a rigid one.
Right.
When there's a big module that is taught by a number of tutors, then all of the tutors know each week what they have to teach. They know the boxes that they have to be able to tick at the end of the lesson. How they teach it is to some extent up to them, and that's how it should be. There's no point in forcing tutors down avenues that they're not expert at, when they might be able to do something they're extremely good at.
Yeah. So what do you think are the skill sets journalism graduates should be leaving with at the end of their degree?
Right.
How have they changed?
How have they changed?
Yeah.
Nothing's diminished. That's the problem. Is that there's nothing that we needn't do now that we did have to do 5-10 years ago.
Right.
There's just a heck of a lot more, which I actually think makes the degree a lot harder. But you still have to know how to write. You still have to know how to construct stories, how to construct features, and shorthand. And I know that students don't like shorthand, but the editors really do like their journalists to have shorthand. So that's not us as a university, it's not us as a profession being old-fashioned, what the editors want. You can't take recording equipment into a court with you, into a council meeting.
But they don't teach it in America though, funnily enough.
Well, because in America you can do just those things. You can take recording equipment into court and into council meetings, but not in Britain.
No.
The editors very much want shorthand taught. So today's students need all of the skills that we've been teaching for years, plus all of the online skills. And I think that's a huge ask of people actually. And the course is getting very full of the things that we have to teach. And I'm not quite, well, that's one of the things we're talking about this summer, is how to tackle exactly that problem. One of the consequences, for example, is that in journalism you do 100 credits as core and 20 credits as options. That's because you need 100 credits to get all of the stuff in that you need to know. Other degrees have maybe 60 or 70 credits as core with a lot more options. We'd love to do that, but we can't do it because we can't teach what you need to know.
Yeah. So what do you think is the biggest issue facing journalism education at the minute?
The skills of the people doing the teaching. Because we need to keep so up to date with all of the things that are changing and the speed that they are changing, that we've got to know what we've got to know it well enough to be able to teach it as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of those skills are skills that when we were really in a profession were not skills that were known then.
Nope.
And I think that's an inevitable problem. I don't see there's any way over it. It's not even a case of saying, right, every year we'll get new practitioners coming in and replacing us, because if you do, all you're doing is getting people with up-to-date journalistic knowledge, but less and less academic knowledge, less and less research knowledge. And I think that any department needs a balance of those two things. But you'll find that's why we use, as you're using Lee, then we in turn will use Lee and people like Lee to talk to you about how things are done. So that and a lot of the academic tutors that you have are people who are in the profession. We need to make sure that we can keep our knowledge as a department up to date.
So can you ever see a time when you say hiring a web developer to come in and either teach you, the educators, or us, the students, hiring an outside body to come in?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, absolutely so. It's one of the things that, again, literally one of the things that we're talking about. It's one of the things that we recognise that we need to be able to do. We're no different from any other journalism department in the country. Every journalism department has to have access to that sort of expertise.
Yeah.
The problem is, a lot of people become journalists not because they want to do web developing, nor indeed because they want to do video, but because they want to write. Maybe they want to ferret out the facts, and they're actually not worried about the writing. It's the ferreting out, which is the most important part. So you've got an extremely disparate population of students wanting to do journalism, and at the moment we're asking you to say all of these different things of them. If we say to them, right, and not only that, we also expect you to be able to develop a website, we also expect you to do this, that and the other. It's another big aspect which you can do a degree in on its own. You can do a degree in web developing on its own, but we want it to go just a little bit as part of a journalism degree, putting a lot of pressure on the students.